It's showtime. Welcome to Boxlunch. Unfortunately, we cannot use our intro music when we go live. Actually, I'm being lazy. We can, but we need to do it as a video on this platform. So regardless, we're back. Welcome to another edition of Boxlunch. You're seeing more product design topics. Last week was a pretty general topic around product design. And this week, we're going to be talking about some cool design examples, innovative design examples, right?
That's right.
So what's been going on generally, just in Sitebox land?
So far, well, we've been talking to a couple different startups. One in healthcare, that's looking at launching sort of a COVID-19 at-home health kit type thing.
Yep.
Pretty smart. Another one is a podcast transcription platform.
I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, it's really slick. Yeah. I mean, you think that it seems like one of those things like it should have been invented a long time ago, to be honest. But the way that they're doing it is really smart and really slick and really thought through, very good. So, and we're working on Reviver right now, the digital license plate. So that should be launching later this month, I believe, probably the end of the month.
Yep.
So fun stuff in product land. Yeah, we're having a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Even now.
Yeah. Even in our quarantine or whatever you want to call it. Although I am at the office, hence the fancy setup here with the with the A7.
Yes. Dang.
And the podcast mic.
That's not a fake background. That's his actual office.
I know.
He's just using
pretty nuts.
A little depth of field on there. That's amazing.
Yeah, so we got all this Disney stuff here. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's jump into it.
Dude, what better product to talk about when we're discussing innovative product design than the platform we're using right now? It's called StreamYard. And a lot of people have asked, like, how are you guys doing that live stream where you guys are going live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously? I actually saw it for the first time when Gary Vee started doing Tea with Gary, when the I guess the lockdown started sometime like into March. He started going live, but I'm subscribed to him everywhere. So you just see like all his notifications go off. You know, his Facebook, his Twitter, his Periscope, YouTube, everything except Instagram would just go off and say Gary's live. So I'm like, what the heck? Like, how's he doing that? Yeah. So then I found out it was StreamYard, and it literally took a minute to sign up, and it's been a game changer for us. Even though we only stream on Facebook and YouTube, I mean, just that alone is a total hack, because it doesn't require software. It doesn't require much to do it. So that's one of the draws to it.
So tell us a little, like, what was life before StreamYard?
Oh man. So
like, how would you have done this otherwise?
So otherwise, we would have used probably OBS. And I know we have a Twitch channel, and we've gone live on Twitch a few times doing some gaming and playing around with that. But the OBS software requires a stream key or a stream URL. To my knowledge, limited knowledge of streaming, you can only put one stream URL into OBS at a given time. So we would just go live on Twitch because we would get the stream key from there, put it in there. I presume YouTube would have worked as well. But you know what? We did go live on YouTube once using OBS. And the reason we did it that way is because we connected our mics and our camera to it. In fact, on Twitch, I think we had multicam, like 2 angles or something, plus the game.
Yeah.
And
your computer dang near melted.
Oh, dude. And it was just a complete resource hog. And it was a lot of work to get graphics overlays, things that we wanted on there, to
Yeah.
get the proper audio sources to load in, those sorts of things. StreamYard, on the other hand, is completely web-based. It just requires a browser,
Mhm.
and then it detects your audio source and your video source just like any other streaming service. Like if you're doing Zoom, like on your browser, or if you're doing like Teams or something like that, it's the same thing. You just choose the source. For this like elaborate setup, I just have this mic connected to a Zoom H4n, I think, H7n, and then I have that USB right into this laptop. So it just shows up as a USB mic. Literally, what source do you want?
Mhm.
USB, boom, choose. And then for the camera, obviously your webcams will pop up. Any USB cam will pop up. I am using a A7 III by Sony, so that DSLRs don't feed in. HDMI doesn't feed in to USB directly, so you do have to buy this like HDMI. What do you call it? HDMI adapter is what we're using here.
There you go. Yeah.
But what it allows us to do is it just shows up as another webcam. So I just have the Sony turned on continuous video, and here we are. You, on the other hand, you've got a headset on
Hmm.
and your webcam. And I assume when you click the link, it just showed you the source, and
Yeah.
you were in.
It's just like joining a web conference,
Right.
video conference.
Yeah. And so again, we're talking about innovative. I think what they've done that other platforms haven't done is just ease of use.
Hmm.
Connect your social accounts when they call it broadcast studio. So my view right now is it's a whole studio. You guys are just seeing, the video stream. What I'm seeing as I guess the producer in the studio is a pretty clean interface. And we'll put a screenshot of it. We'll provide that too when we transcribe this into a blog. Or you can Google it, StreamYard. These guys are putting videos out there all the time on how to use the tool. It's a whole studio, and because we use it for Sitebox, and we use it for Go Founders, and we use it for other things, you can create different brands and then change things on the fly pretty much whenever you want.
Hmm.
Another cool feature that they offer is, so right now we're live on Facebook and YouTube, but nobody's really commenting. If you had a pretty decent traffic on or I should say viewership on your live stream, your viewers' comments, here, I'll do an example here, would show up
Oh, look at that.
in the comments area, and then it sends it to both YouTube and Facebook, and you can show it here in the stream. So you'll see here it says hello.
Wow.
So when people come in and start saying things on the live stream, like, or asking questions, you know what I mean? It's very interactive.
Hmm.
You can come in here and add these comments. They can come from Facebook. They come from YouTube. Pretty slick. You've got tickers. You'll see here. It's pretty nice. We're talking about StreamYard right now.
So where do
we
you?
can change the branding, those sorts
Yeah.
of things.
Where do you see the future now? Like based on this, like what are some of the innovations you see being like?
Yeah, and the other thing to point out is this works on a mobile browser on your iPhone.
Mm,
So we can give this link to someone on a phone, text it to someone. Hey, would you mind joining our live broadcast? They can click a link. It opens their
wait, it'll run on a mobile web browser,
yes.
so you don't
Yeah.
even have to install an app.
You don't have to install anything. It's like dialing into a Zoom or dialing in, doing a FaceTime right in the browser. The browser will detect your camera and ask you for permission to use your mic, and then it's puts you in the studio.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think that's the
yeah.
future of it. I see these things going fully web based
Hmm.
for a couple of reasons, and one is just because I believe that I don't know. I have a suspicion that a lot of these web-based tools they're reusing a lot of components that maybe exist that are getting better. There's a lot of reuse of that. I'm not a developer, but that's what it sounds like to me. Because a lot more platforms are using web-based video as opposed to building robust native apps. Mac apps, iOS, Android. There's just no need to do that when it just works in a browser. And then two is I'm going to sort of tease a little bit of what we're going to talk about later, but I see a lot of the computing right now. There's still bandwidth issues because both sides, your stream still has a continuous upload that has to occur. And then there's, the computing. So is the computer going to handle running a stream? Like OBS would just kick my MacBook's butt, right? The entire time it was on, the fan would be on. Right now, there's literally like the fan is so quiet right now. I can't even, and I have issues with with this fan on this computer. And right now it's chilling. So I can see them sort of offloading a lot of this to the cloud as well as technology improves, like just completely offloading all this stuff, all the heaviness of streaming and studio and whatnot. So it gets me excited because it makes it easy for guys like us and easy for creators to just click a button and go live and have literally a show like running in minutes.
Yeah. And that's very true. I mean, the whole Twitch thing, there was like, I mean, it took us a couple months to sort of get all the gear, everything set up just to do Twitch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it was such a barrier. We're like, how are people that get into this? It's like a barrier of entry, and this just sort of tears that wall down, which I think is really amazing. And we were talking earlier too about sort of the benefits of this cloud thing. I was telling you about Google Meet is introducing some new features, and they just had a video demo today of a sound, I don't know, noise repression or sound canceling type thing. And the guy literally had a bag of potato chips, and he was just crumpling the thing. You couldn't hear him at all, right? And then he's like, let me put on the noise canceling thing. And so he's like, here, I can talk now. And literally he's crunching the same bag of chips and you can't even hear it. Wow. It's completely blocked out. And that's all like being done on their side, their server side. So, I mean, that's pretty intense, pretty sophisticated noise canceling.
Yeah, big time.
But they're able to do it because, it's happening on their end. Normally your product rollouts, like as those innovations happen, you'd have to send out an update and, seed it out. But now that it's all cloud-based, it's just happening at a faster rate, and they can make those tweaks pretty much, multiple times a day if needed. So it's just it's a very fun time to sort of see software sort of graduate to the cloud, in that way. And we'll talk more about that,
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot of talk of the stock market this week.
Yes.
There's been some record gains. There's been some craziness happening with the world where it is right now. And what's happening in the world of finance that makes it to number 2 on our list here.
All right. So number two is an investment app, basically a stock trading app called Robinhood. And I can tell you a little bit more, like from my perspective, the world before Robinhood was basically, if you remember, there were always, like, they call them brokerage firms. So, your Charles Schwab's and your stuff like that. You have your Fidelities, stuff like that, brokerage firms. And a lot of times you actually had to call your broker on the phone and be like, hey, Bill, put me down for 200 shares of, General Electric. All right, thanks. Or what's the rate? Blah, blah, blah. And, and they put an order in, and sometime during the day it would get executed, and, there were certain parameters you could set, but it was done almost like manually, right? Like putting in orders was sort of a thing you actually would do over the phone. Then came Etrade, which really changed it. So now they became like a self-service brokerage. So you could go on and buy your own shares and stock and anything you wanted, mutual funds, ETFs. You could sort of buy whatever you wanted on your own. You didn't have to go through a broker. So, and it was considered what they call a discount brokerage. So you paid per trade. So at the time it was like $30 a trade or $40 a trade. But that was a per trade, buy and sell.
Yep.
So regardless of the amount of money, let's say you wanted to buy $200 of Apple at the time, you would have to spend $40 to execute that on putting the money in, and then $40 if you wanted to sell it. Right. So there was a charge, and E-Trade, even with those prices, made a lot of money. And then it caused the industry to sort of push towards discount brokerage things. So you had all the large brokerage firms came out with their own products, Scottrade, stuff like that were basically discount brokerages, same sort of business model. And that's the way it stayed for, I would say, 15 years or more, 16 years. Not much changed. But then came Robinhood, and again, they sort of, disruptive in a couple different ways. One, it's mobile only. Okay. Pretty sure there's not a desktop app for Robinhood.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure too. I think
so.
It is.
It's only mobile. Okay. But the most disruptive part of it is that it's free. Buying and selling trades are absolutely free. Now, how does their business model work? Well, I'm sure it's very complicated. But the point is, you can buy and sell as many times a day as you want and pay nothing. And so what it's done is it's sort of birthed this. I mean, you already had day traders as is, but now you have this whole new batch of insane day traders that are doing it for sport, because now there's no cost barrier. I mean, if you were paying $40 trading in and out, I mean, you'd spend hundreds of dollars a day being a day trader, probably thousands, on all your trades. Now you pay nothing. You keep all that money. You keep all that profit. So and on top of that, they've sort of perfected the way, so they even have crypto. But what's been really interesting about it is it's sort of created a boom in what they call the retail investors. So people like you and I, we're considered retail investors. We're not. There's retail and then institutional investors. Institutions are big hedge funds and corporations and stuff that are doing stuff for like retirement funds and stuff like that. So big purchases. We're retail. We're small. Robinhood basically opened up the world of retail investing to not just Gen X, because we had E-Trade, right? But Gen Z, Gen Y are millennials, and now it's like a hip thing. Like you see hipsters trading stocks. It's like trendy. It's crazy. And anyway, they've gotten into a bunch of different things. In fact, remember, if it was sometime last year, maybe it was like about a year ago, they talked about getting into actual financing, like having checking and savings accounts. Yes, they were doing checking accounts. They were going to do free checking accounts, and they had a savings account that was going to accrue like 10% or something ridiculous.
It was nuts.
I mean, it was
like 2.5 or something, but
yeah,
still,
it was way better than like the 0.0% that you're going to get at your normal bank savings account. Anyway, the FTC, I think, or FCC came in and said no, or whatever, whoever it was, the Fed. Anyway, but the latest story with them is that during the coronavirus, you've had a number of companies begin to talk about restructuring, beginning to talk about bankruptcy filings and all that stuff. One of those companies was Hertz, and what happened is Hertz stock just basically, they talked about the fact that they're going to have to go through Chapter 11. So the stock just fell to pieces, right? It went to zero almost. And what happened was a bunch of people on Robinhood, they, because then there's chat rooms and there's Reddit and all this stuff, and they basically coordinated and said, look, there's no reason.
Innovation thing, right?
Right. Again, so there's
a community on Robinhood.
There's a community on Robinhood. So it's not as if it's social, right? And so this is where things get very interesting, because normally, let's be honest, like there are nefarious things that happen in the market with with setting prices and standards and not letting, there are certain times there's coordinated efforts to keep a stock from going too high or too low. But most of the time that's done by the people standing in, the New York Stock Exchange room, on those phone calls saying, hey, normally it's done by high ranking people. This was like a crowd funded thing where they basically went in and bought up all this cheap Hertz stock, and because it was pennies, and the stock shot up and it kept shooting up. And then all of a sudden, and again, most of the market, let's be honest, probably 50% of the market is completely automated. It's all done by robots and algorithms. So once that started ticking up, it started getting flagged as like, whoa, like Hertz just went up 20% today. Hertz just went up 50% today. And that cues different things to jump on. And so the stock just flew up. And now it's to the point where I think they're at an all-time trading high. And I think Hertz is talking about just issuing new stock to stay afloat. Like now, they're like, now we have buyers.
We don't have to go bankrupt.
We don't have to go bankrupt after all. Like we have liquidity again. Ta-da! We can
because a startup decided to create an app and a community,
right,
out of new traders.
Yeah, that are sort of completely renegade, and so it's fascinating to watch sort of products like this and what happens and how they do affect the economy, ultimately. And Robinhood,
absolutely,
love them or hate them. And there's some people do hate them because the app had problems. I don't know if you remember this, like a few months ago, the app had problems when the stock market was really tanking and trades wouldn't get executed. It was like, what it was? This is this is old school stuff, but they, was it February? It has a leap day.
Yes.
They forgot to program the leap day. So like come March 1st or whatever, the app stops working. And March 1st, consequently, was a horrible day in the stock market. Like it dropped like 800 points. So all these people are like, I'm trying to execute. Today's a huge day. I need to either buy or sell. And they couldn't. And so it was a kind of a disaster. So there's still hiccups. But nothing is really.
They had a Pied Piper moment.
They had a total Pied Piper meltdown. And so anyway, not to talk too long about Robinhood, but I see the future sort of, and this is the thing too, like we talk about the future, the fact that buying and trading stocks and crypto has sort of been like a very elitist thing, like that's not something normal people do, right? Especially when they're young. It's sort of like this old person game. The way the more Robinhood does this and the more other companies come in to do similar things, I think you're going to see the ideas and buying and selling shares and equities just be something that's more popular. And I think that's a good thing because it's going to open up more people to ways of getting wealthy, that only some people had, right? The opportunities of wealth. And so I think it's great. I mean, there's all these stories of like teenagers on Robinhood, like getting up to $1 million. Their parents give them a couple $1,000s, and over for, there's this classic thing. This kid in high school would sit. He was kind of this hero. He'd sit in class and buy and sell shares, and then he'd take screenshots. And people are like, "This guy just made like $80,000 in his physics class." Yeah. So it's going to change. I think it's going to make people just the way startups sort of have. And technology has sort of made billionaires and millionaires out of people who may not have ever been able to achieve that. I think Robinhood's going to do the same for a lot of people. And I want it to be popular. I want it to be like cool to own stock, And so I think Robinhood's on the way to do that.
Sweet. Yeah, I own a few. I'm not a big trader, but I know their onboarding was pretty smart. It was genius. It was like, get a stock and give a stock away or something like that.
Yeah. And I think you were the one who got me on it.
Yeah. So I sent it to a bunch of friends, and then
I think I got some Zynga stock or something.
Zynga. I got some movie pass.
Yeah. Oh, dude, remember that? Oh, we should do a thing on product fails. That should be another one.
Yeah.
We'll put movie pass on that list.
Yeah. The startups that got movie passed. But and then even the checking account thing was smart. It was like super limited, and like, remember that? It was like your number or whatever on the queue.
There's a waiting list.
Yeah. And then I had a buddy that worked there at the time who like shot me up like 10,000 slots or something.
That's right.
So I felt like I was close, and then the whole thing went to crap. But I mean, I have it, but I didn't realize that all the stuff you had found out about it this week, or how they got, how they were able to manipulate this stock to help a market, to get the stock to shoot up and their benefit.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's freaking that. I mean, that's innovative.
Yeah,
Robinhood's part,
right?
It's
but
like
I mean, and it's
Twitter,
funny.
Twitter through a regime. It's like Gaddafi is dead because of Twitter. It's like so crazy, right?
Isn't that crazy? But also too, I mean, even going back to sort of the future, I mean, the fact that it's called Robinhood is sort of, to me, like it sort of even gets to that idea, right? That Robinhood, steal from the wealthy,
from the
to
rich,
the poor, right? And so it's exactly. I love sort of even the ethos of that. Like from a brand perspective, you're like, like it's renegade, it's rebel, it's like, and what a powerful statement, So when we talk about, like, it's not E-Trade, it's not like trying to be like some insider, like, hey, I'm a day trader. It's like, no, I'm out to sort of mess with the powers that be, and I think that's, when we talk about, our product marketing fit, that's it right there, right? You make it cool, you make it renegade. That's how you attract a whole new group of people. Like the day traders, they already have their platforms. That whole audience was spoken for, right? Robinhood wasn't for them. It was for this whole new group of people that would never normally touch it. But now there's a way in because, they can join the Robinhood and his merry men,
in tights.
Tights. All right.
Cool.
What's next?
Good. Number 3 on the list is one that I'm particularly excited about because I just started using it this week.
Yeah.
Tell us, you're the one that found it, man. Tell us about this. So here, let me set up the issue I had first. My computer's just, from one day to the next, just started struggling with the resources and memory and fan and all that. And I attributed all my problems to one browser called Chrome. It's like a love-hate, right? Love-hate relationship.
But you went so far as to actually like dismantle your Mac to clean it out. Like, right? Like you ordered a special screwdriver set.
I did.
So you could get the dust bunnies out.
Yep. Just so I could run Chrome. It's stupid, It's like I have other things to do, on this computer. There was a day where I could have a browser open, edit stuff on Premiere, and have Photoshop and Illustrator open without issues, Just now I open Chrome and the fan is just like, it's going nuts, right? And it's a memory hog. And I don't understand it, And the only reason I'm on Chrome is because of all the extensions. That's really the truth, We do we're G Suite users, so all our stuff is Google. So it integrates nicely with the browser. And I figured I just had to suck it up until you discovered a new browser.
Called Brave. Brave.com. So yeah, and I'm trying to remember, I thought I saw it like almost in like an advertise or some sort of article comparing, like talking about Brave, like is Brave a safe browser or something like that. And I was like, I've never heard of it before. So I checked it out.
And I'm using it right now, by the way. I'm running this whole StreamYard studio in Brave.
So a little bit from what I understand about Brave. So, and this goes back to Chrome, Google. When Google built Chrome, they built it on a thing called Chromium. Chromium is an open source browser platform. So I think similar to like, any open source, like even Firefox, I think is open source or based on it. And basically Google built a shell around Chromium called Chrome, and then built the browser. So the beautiful thing is it somehow Brave has basically done the same thing. They took the Chromium sort of kernel, if you will, and built their browser around it. And somehow they've managed to make it so that it's completely compatible with all Chrome extensions, right? So again, maybe these Chrome extensions were built on Chromium so that there's really no issue. But what Brave has done is they've sort of realized they're like a couple things, right? One, Chrome is a complete resource hog.
Yep.
So they streamlined that. They took out some of the heavyweight stuff that probably doesn't.
They trimmed the fat.
They trimmed the fat, right?
Yeah.
So, and made it a little cleaner, a little lighter. But then one of the also amazing things is they made it more secure. So normally when you're going around browsing, Google's tracking what you're doing, with your Google account. There's tons of cookies and all this stuff getting tossed on your browser, on your, into your history. And you can install extensions that limit that.
You can see my Brave here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there it is.
Look, here's my
thing. Yeah, there's all your extensions. Stack, yeah.
My LastPass, my Zoom. It's all working.
Yeah. So what's amazing, so those extensions all work, but the browser itself limits the amount of cookies and all that phishing that goes on. So it's a safer browser, it's faster, and it has this little crypto thing. So they have their own cryptocurrency. I forget what it's called, like the BET. Basic, it's called like a BAT, Basic Attention Token. You hear about this?
I'm just learning about it. Yeah, every day I kind of go a little deeper.
Yeah.
So right here, verify wallet. I haven't done that, but I'm assuming the browser has a freaking crypto wallet.
It's exactly
built into it.
So the idea is that while you're using it, you're building up, it's giving you coinage. It's giving you credit for using Brave. And then what you're able to do is either, basically build up a wallet. And then they have a thing in here where you can tip it. You can tip websites.
Yeah.
So as a show of support, you can be like, you know what? I've got a couple, BAT coins. I'm going to toss some to this website because I really like what they're doing. And as long as they verified that they have connected their wallet, yeah, it just goes right in. In fact, you can even subscribe and say, I want to give these guys a coin a month, just to support them. And so it's this really sort of interesting way of supporting, websites and creating a very interesting sort of ecosystem around browsing, which you would think, again, that's why I think it's so dang innovative, because it's not, they didn't just say, hey, we're going to build a better browser. They just went, they keep going steps and steps further. That just to me says this is innovative. This is really smart. And I like it, and I'll admit I've been like a Chrome fanboy. Everyone I talk to, I'm like, why are you still using Safari? Like, I used to use Safari all the time. And heck, I even have an Android phone, so for a long time I was like, I'm Chrome all the way. I'm a Google nut job. But now I look at this and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually feeling more comfortable supporting this. And there was a whole thing recently too with ad tracking, and Google was making it impossible for ad blockers to block ads. Like, they were changing some of the underpinning code to make it impossible for the ad blockers to block. And so there's a big old thing about that. Anyway, so I think Brave is pretty amazing for what it's doing. And in terms of the future of web browsing, I think it's going to keep going in this way. I think people, there's the problem I see right now is that there's such a divide between desktop and mobile. You're basically, it's two form factors, but there's always sort of this divide. I wonder if that'll ever maybe it won't be resolved. I don't know if that's the big issue, but Brave, for instance, is cross-platform. So they have an Android, they have an iOS app, they have Mac OS, they have Windows. So they're really smart about that. I I don't know. I think,
And switching from Chrome to Brave, honestly, you won't miss Chrome. Like
no, you don't even know the difference. I mean, all the keystrokes are the same. I mean, even like the panels are the same. The buttons are in the same spot. Like it's pretty ridiculous. One thing I think that is going to be interesting, and then we talked about this a little bit too with StreamYard and all this stuff, all these sort of apps moving to the web. I think one of the things that I sort of see coming, and we'll talk more about this, is very much like using, and I think this is the reason Chrome is so heavy, is that Chrome is starting to they're trying to inch into basically the Chrome OS. And so I think that you may eventually see the idea that Chrome or the web browser isn't actually there to just browse the web. It's actually a computer interface. It's actually an operating system of its own that functions in this window, right? So at a certain point, you're going to be able to, you're just basically going to have a remote computer. You know, you're going to have maybe your hardware operating system, and then you're going to have some sort of like web operating system that runs completely independent of what you're on, just like a Chromebook sort of does, right? It's all web app based. I can sort of see that being the future of a browser, and I don't know why that hasn't happened totally. Like, why can't I run just like, maybe you can just turn Chrome into like a Chromebook. I don't know how to do that, but it seems like that would sort of be a natural evolution of some of this stuff. I mean, because for instance, I mean, we've been using Figma these last few weeks on some stuff, and it's scary how good it is.
I know.
It's scary how a web app for design, vector design, is faster and smoother than Adobe Illustrator, which is running natively on my computer. You know, it just blows my mind. And there's no distinction. Like, I can't tell. I have no idea that it's running a web app, but it's so clean, so good. And it's so lightweight, and it's collaborative. And
I guarantee you, don't quote me on this, but so for example, Figma, I believe they have a native Figma app you can download, like an actual Figma app, but it's identical to the web app. So I would almost say that the native app is actually the web app, just wrapped.
It probably is. It's just a
wrapper.
Yeah. It's just in some React Native thing, you know?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So I see web browsers being more than just web browsers. I see them being sort of like the backbone of a lot of these, you know, Chromium being like that sort of Chromium OS and operating system. Because the truth is, and you know, even with Apple, like Apple's about to announce a new processor, right? They're going to build their own hardware or their own chips, their own CPUs. Mm-hmm. And I think you're just going to start to get into this world where, and we'll talk a little bit, you know, like that having your own hardware is sort of inconsequential, you know, that it's just going to be, the cloud is going to be so powerful that, you know, all these things, like really it's the software only that we're going to be concerned with. The hardware is going to sort of be like inconsequential to what we're doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's talk.
This is a good segue into the last two.
Yep.
Which are all made by, you know, we're kind of knocking Chrome a little bit, but Google does do a lot of good things. Mm-hmm. And the fourth one on our list is going to be the Google Home. And I'm particularly excited about the stuff they're doing with the Google Home, like integration. I just bought the Nest Wi-Fi with the mesh. And I mean, the thing is just, it's changed my home like completely for a couple of reasons. One is the damn thing just makes my connection like crazy fast just by connecting to that versus just using the built-in Wi-Fi that my router has. And then two is the mesh. So I used to have major connection issues in my loft upstairs. And I have connected devices upstairs. And I mean, if I'm just, you know, on the pot upstairs in my bathroom, you know, I can't browse, not even my phone. Like I can't do anything.
My bathroom was a dead zone too.
Yeah, it's a complete dead zone, you know, for forever. The whole time I've lived there, and it's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And now the problem solved, you know, we got this super sick connection. And then the mesh that's upstairs is also acts as a speaker. It's a Google Home speaker, and it's a pretty heavy duty speaker. I mean, the thing is, it bumps. So, I mean, for the price of what you would have paid just for a music speaker.
Yeah, a Sonos or whatever.
Yeah, I have a Wi-Fi thing that, that powers the whole house, and a speaker, and you can talk to it.
And you can talk to it.
And it's all integrated into the Google Home integration, the app, and all that stuff, which is all voice, which is all very impressive to me, because you basically set up your home any way you want with all the devices you have, including third-party ones. So for example, I've got, where's my finger? I've got this little tiny one here in this office. And this is basically my command central. This is my Jarvis when I'm in here, because I just tell it what to do and it does it, because I have Google Home set up. So for example, hey, Google, turn off the studio.
Sure, turning off 2 outlets.
There you go. Studio lights are off. Hey, Google, turn off the office.
All right, turning off.
Now I'm in the dark. Hey, Google, turn on the office.
Sure, turning on 2 switches.
Hey, Google, turn on the studio.
Sure, turning 2 outlets on.
And I could tell it other things, like show me the front door. All the stuff, it does. So I don't know. It's like, it's hard to think of a time where, like, where were things before? Like, it didn't exist. So I don't know how to even answer that, right? It's like they just invented a way to sort of, streamline the things around your house, make them smarter.
Yeah.
And it saved you time, really, like, at the end of the day, which is super innovative. And I see a day where you don't touch anything with your phone or anything. You just talk.
Yeah.
Things just happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts. I ordered food from the restaurant downstairs a couple of weeks ago, which I had never done through a Google Map. Like, I mapped the place in Maps, and then the menu was right in the Maps.
Wow.
I don't know if you've seen this.
No.
Yeah, usually it's like photos and different things. It's menu, and it had the option to order. So I said, well, let's see if this works. I ordered it, paid using my Google Wallet that's built in, that I have set up. And I was done. And then the Google Home told me, hold on, I might have to switch cameras here. That's hilarious.
Cooked it
up.
I can still hear you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let me turn this camera off 1 second.
Innovation.
It isn't perfect yet. See, now I can move around. So anyways, the order told my Google Home that I could check the status of my food by asking it. So then I just said,
really? The Google Home?
Yeah. So then I didn't even have to check my phone. I just said, where's my order? And it said, your order at Fertolinos is currently being made and should be ready in whatever, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And then it dictated back to me, your order's ready for pickup. Freaking crazy. So then sure enough, I walk downstairs, I go to the restaurant, and my order's ready. So that's where I see this thing going, is just having it connected.
Yeah.
And what's smart about Google, even though they haven't figured out how to take over this screen here, the TV, I think that's what's next.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to, they've played around with Chromecast and different things, but once they figure that out, I think things are going to change.
Yeah. Well, I heard that they're working on a thing called Chrome TV. So more of like an Apple TV
type.
Yeah. Sort of, instead of just being a casting device.
Yeah.
But I'll say this too, and I think this is sort of one of Google's master strokes as well, is that they made it really approachable and attainable, right? I mean, I've got a Google Home right here, and I mean, I love it, but they're like 20, 30 bucks, 40, at beginning they were sort of a little pricier, but now they're always on sale. They're giving them away half the time. So we have them all over the house, and so, and I'll just say this. I mean, what's interesting is, and this is sort of, it's kind of a weird sort of thing that's happened, because Apple was really the first ones to sort of popularize the speech thing, the assistant, which was Siri. They sort of made that, they put it in all the iPhones, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, I can talk to my phone and ask it questions. But and then Apple came out with the pod. What is it called? The HomePod.
The HomePod.
Yeah, but
it
it's
was
like
super expensive.
It's $200 or
and didn't
$300.
work.
And you're like, who's gonna really? I can't buy one of those for every room of the house. Maybe one, maybe. But for the same price, I can basically buy 10 Google Homes and have them everywhere. So why would I not? So. So the fact that Google sort of said, we're going to make these really small devices, and maybe they don't make much on them. Maybe there's not a profit margin on these. Very good.
Dude, they're giving these things away.
Because they understand that the services on the other side of this.
And I don't mean that metaphorically.
They're
literally giving them away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got
Spotify, like they had a thing where if like you switch to a certain type of Spotify account, they would send you one. I got one.
Yeah.
Recently we switched to their new Nest Aware for the office here and for the house. They're sending me 2.
Stop. See? Yeah, they're just like,
they're
here.
just literally
make it rain.
They want you to talk to them.
Yes.
They want to control they're in competition with Amazon, right? So
yes.
They want to own the voice, and by them just gearing you up, they're gonna win. Because those things, it's pennies what it costs them to send you one.
Yeah. And then
your data is worth a lot more than them giving you a little speaker.
Yeah. So they see the future in that, and it's just brilliant little device. So, and what's the future of that? Well, I think
I think it's voice.
I think it's voice. I think the idea of these things getting more intelligent, it's crazy to watch my kids use the Google Home because they've learned it. Like, and this is what's so funny is we act like, oh, it's easy to do, but knowing how to talk to a digital assistant like this is actually a skill. It takes practice. Like when we first got it, like we were clumsy with it. Now we can tell it entire phrases. We know, the whole family knows like basically how to do things with it. The kids play music on it. And I think now that people are sort of over that learning curve and understand it, I think now it's going to be a question of like, what else can we do? What are some of the things that people are going to want to ask this thing, and how can it play more of a, right now it's just an answer machine. Like, can it suggest things like, hey, did you know you left the oven on? Hey, did you certain, like alerting you to certain things that are happening. And I think there's going to be like, we get into AI assistants. I think Google Home is probably the best poised to do the most with it. Even though Amazon has, I think, significantly more devices out there, I just don't see them really pushing the services the same way. I just don't think they have. Well, they got AWS, so they could sort of. I think they're definitely a powerhouse, but I think there's something interesting about the way Google has services that are a little more consumer friendly, like outside of Amazon, like Marketplace, but where you're like, you've got people use Gmail, people use Google Voice. I think there's just a lot of stuff that they can do with it going forward. That's just going to be amazing. So
I agree.
I think, it'll and my daughter the other day asked me, she's like, when I something about, she was asking like, why, like, where does Google learn its jokes? And I had to explain to her, I'm like, well, right now those are people writing the jokes, and she's like, oh, okay. And I said, but someday Google will probably be able to tell you a real joke, by itself. So that day will come, and then
Yeah.
God only knows. And
Yeah.
what's last here?
Finally, Stadia.
Stadia, another Google product.
Another Google product. And what's exciting for me about this is not even the gaming, because I could care less about that. It's the fact that you can play these super intensive, memory intensive games. And I guess what they call their, is their cloud called anything? Like their game cloud, whatever you want to call it. You could basically run this game on your TV with the Chromecast, right?
You can run it on your phone.
Your phone,
anything
Chromebook.
Anything that has a internet connection, really.
Okay, so imagine playing NBA 2K
on your phone.
On your phone,
Full
or a Chromebook, a $200 Chromebook.
Yes.
With no lag.
Yeah.
That's just nuts to me.
Yeah, at 4K.
At 4K. Sidebox always brings the fire. It's our boy Cliff.
So let's talk a little bit.
Viewer on Facebook.
Yes.
Right on, Cliff.
So let's talk a little bit. What happened? What was life before Stadia? Well, most people know. Like Charlie and I, we grew up with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES.
Yep.
That was sort of my first console.
Yep.
Prior to that, it was games on the Apple IIe. And then came Nintendo, and then of course the Nintendo Sega war, and then comes PlayStation. And it's just consoles. It's consoles.
It's constantly having to get a better, faster console, right?
Yeah. And there's this thing too, and you can see it in most consoles. There's Nintendo's sort of notorious for this, where they will they'll introduce a platform, they'll create their own sort of flagship games for it. Some Nintendo game, some Mario, Zelda, some Kirby game, whatever their flagship games that really sort of showcase and demonstrate what the platform can do. But it takes third-party developers at least a year or two to get good enough on those platforms to push it the same way Nintendo did as a company. And the reason for that is because they have to learn the new, how to program for that device and what are the things it can and can't do. And that takes a long time to get right. And what I think has changed this sort of dynamic a bit is that where that was sort of the case, and then you create cross-platform games where it's on a PlayStation and on this, you have this big disparity, right? I mean, a PS4 is significantly more powerful than a Nintendo Switch, significantly more powerful. And so
they just announced the PS5, didn't they?
Yeah, and they're coming out the PS5, and there's a whole thing about that in the new Xbox One or whatever, and how which has the better processor. And there's this big pissing match over who can do more teraflops a second. So it's this big thing, but the hardware is very expensive, and it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. The games are sort of a little bit expensive to own. And talking about having discs, I haven't told you this, but my girls have somehow misplaced three of my Nintendo Switch little carts. No. I don't know where they are. I've stopped looking.
That's a $59
each.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm sure they're in the house somewhere, but who knows? It'll be like we'll find them at the bottom of a hamper in 3 years. But anyway, so there's issues. Hardware breaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this kind of stuff. Where Stadia comes in is they basically move the whole thing to the cloud, leverage all the Google servers they have, and sort of, and it works what I love is it solves two problems, right? It solves the problem from a consumer perspective, which is, okay, I got to invest in I got to put an upfront payment of $400 for a new PlayStation. Plus, I got to buy all my games over again. Got to buy the new Call of Duty, and a lot of these games too are getting subscription based. So you'll buy Call of Duty, and then you got to buy either the expansion pack or some sort of subscription to play online. So you're paying another $10, $12, $15 a month per game into perpetuity. And so it just gets to be silly and stupid. So you have a cost barrier and a sort of an entry barrier for consumers. And then you have the whole issue of development for developers, right? So game developers have to learn now the PS5. So Sony has to ship all these developers, these SDK, kits, so that they can create the games that are going to come out, and they got to learn all that crap. Whereas with Google, they're like, you know what, we're going to do this all cloud-based, and we'll be able to run different systems, different emulators. Doesn't matter. And the better, to me, it's sort of the thing that solves both of these things is scalability. So if you have a game that, really can, like, you want to go, like, it's got some crazy graphics they want to do. Before, they had to say, well, we can only do so much on this system, right? It can only handle so many, quarks and, pixels and stuff. With the cloud, that's not the case. They can scale up. So the game can go from 8 cores to 2 cores to 10 cores to 12 cores, like instantaneously. It doesn't matter, right? So it just kind of, it opens up the level of gaming to another place that I don't think we've even seen. Like the games you're seeing that they're offering right now are console games or PC games developed for a PC. But now, and I'm guessing in the next year or two, once you see games developed specifically for Stadia on Stadia, I think it's just going to be jaw-dropping. That's my prediction, because now all of a sudden it's just on another level. Like it's all rendered in one place, and all the latency is taken out. It's just gonna, I think it's gonna change the way games are done.
Look at that. There's a Chromecast.
Yeah.
On the TV.
That's it. That little box. Yeah. And that controller is it. Like that's the only hardware they sell is the Chromecast and the controller. And there's your console.
Yeah. So we got 2 minutes left. So what is the future of this technology? And again, I said it at the top of this. For me, yes. It's not even that you can game.
No.
Why are you buying the $400 console when all you need is the controller?
Right.
Why are you buying a $3,000 laptop when all you need is a window, a keyboard, and a mouse?
Right.
That's where I think the future of this is going.
And I think we can tie these all sort of nicely together, right? Yes. It sort of works out this way, that even we're talking about this move to the cloud, everything from like StreamYard being handled in the cloud, to faster, better browsers. I think the future is to the point where, yes, the hardware becomes inconsequential. If Google can do this with a video game, I have a feeling they could probably do it just fine, with anything else, an operating system, file management. Mm-hmm. Why? I mean, we do video editing, and why is my computer sitting there having to crunch, and export for, on Premiere for 3 hours? Stupid. Send it to the cloud, get it done, Yep. So I think there's going to be a day coming, and I hope the hardware people embrace it and don't fight it.
A virtual terminal.
A virtual terminal, right?
And I would gladly pay. I don't know. I'm making this up, but I would gladly pay like a couple $100 a month if you gave me the fastest computer.
Unlimited processing power.
Power. So it's basically like it's a computer as a service.
Yes.
That's the future that I see.
The OS SaaS. Yeah.
MacBook as a service,
Yeah. OS as a service.
OS as a service. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
operating service as a service.
I don't see Apple going that way because they create, their whole thing
hardware.
Is hardware. and they do produce the best hardware.
Right.
But if someone like Google can just like take over that and then just give us, I mean, look at that little MacBook that's in that screen there. Like if you gave me a slick
Or Chromebook
MacBook
like that.
or Chromebook, yeah, slick Chromebook, and all you need is internet, basically.
Yeah.
And a nice monitor. You know what? That doesn't even matter. You can plug into any monitor, right? Just like we do now.
Yeah.
Like that's all I need. That's your window into the fastest computer you've ever owned.
And don't think that day's not coming, because just like the Google Home, these little Google Home Minis, they're just going to give them away, right? I mean, I'd be like, hardware is free, right? For $20, $30 a month.
Now, $99 a month, $199 a month, whatever tier you want.
Yeah.
And we'll ship you a shiny new Chromebook.
Yeah.
And you're good to go.
Yeah. And if it breaks, just send it back. We'll give you another one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because they're not going to make money off those computers.
Yeah. They're just going to be terminals. They're going to be just going to be little streaming devices that,
you
know, and then you throw in 5G on top of that.
Ooh.
You just put in a little 5G card. You're always going to be connected.
Yeah.
You can be driving down the road and you're going to have Wi-Fi. So yeah, it's coming. So
it is. I mean,
mark our words.
And for the record, we've been saying this for years.
We have been saying this for years.
We've wanted to talk about Stadia for a while now.
Yeah.
Just because that to us is the first sort of glimpse into that reality.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely coming. I believe it. And I look forward to it because I'm tired of buying $3,000 computers.
Yes. And I'm tired of losing little game cartridges under the couch.
Yep.
So
right,
future's going to be bright for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So hang in there, folks. Hopefully we brought you some value today. Look up these 5 innovative products at your leisure. We will continue to put together product content, I guess.
Yeah.
Week after week. We're launching a blog, so we'll put a link to that in all our social media outlets. For those of you that prefer to read, because I know watching a video for an hour is difficult, especially listening to a couple of boneheads like us. We love what we do, and we love talking about cool stuff. So check it out. StreamYard, Robinhood, Brave, Google Home, and Stadia. To the future we go.
Yes.
My hoverboard, where is it? Right there. That's coming, man. One day.
Coming, man. You wait.
See you guys later.
Peace out.